in the Kentucky Derby.
The turn, the leader, War Admiral, 2.5 for 3.
That's what it is in the center of the racetrack. The Admiral Sloop drawing alongside again.
War Admiral is still there. War Admiral is pulling away. He's got another gear. Yeah, the Swiss they come in the Derby. Wheel away takes command. Lion Heart is all heart. Smarty Jones is all out. And here is the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since the Admiral of 1979.
Now just 10 days away from the 146th running of the Kentucky Derby. Live from historic Churchill Downs, it's time for the Kentucky Derby Workout Show, presented by TwinSpires.com and the TwinSpires app. Another gorgeous morning in Louisville. Temperatures in the low 70s and the main track is fast. Let's take a look at the headlines. Grade 1 Haskell winner, a potential Kentucky Derby pace setter, Authentic, worked a solid mile in 1:38 3/5 on Tuesday morning at Del Mar. Her 5-time Kentucky Derby winning trainer Bob Baffert. Brandon Staubel will break it down for us a little bit later on in the show. News on the potential field for the Kentucky Oaks. Venetian Harbor, tonalist shape, hopeful growth, and tempers rising are out, while Bayerness, third in both the Dogwood and the Indiana Oaks for Cherie DeVoe, has been added to the list of potential runners. Swiss Skydiver and Speech, the likely second and third choices in the Kentucky Oaks behind Gamine. Both arrived on the Churchill Downs grounds on Tuesday. Swiss Skydiver, 4-time graded stakes winner for owner Peter Callahan, got off the van last night around 8 o'clock at night, and Churchill Downs leading rider from this past meet, Tyler Gaffleone, will be aboard. We will catch up with trainer Kenny McPeak a little bit later on in the show, and there you see Swiss Skydiver again last night, probably around 8 o'clock. She arrived to the barn of trainer Kenny McPeak, likely second choice in the Kentucky Oaks behind Gamine. Speech also arriving yesterday, the likely third choice in the run for the Lilies. Joe Christopher alongside Ed DeRosa, and Ed, I mentioned Swiss Skydiver, Speech arriving on the grounds. Gamine will arrive later for trainer Bob Baffert. That's the big three, and based on one of our headlines, they're scaring some of the other horses out.
I would say so, and understandable, especially the big two, and then you throw Speech in there, obviously 3 top contenders. Brad Cox does have 2. We'll see what he decides to do with Bonnie South, if he has 2 or 1, but these rivals are exciting. I love seeing King Guillermo every day, Joe, but it'll be good to get some fresh faces out there.
King Guillermo's like the Bravazzo of 2020.
And who was the Dale horse that our producer loved?
Oh, Promise.
Yes,
Fulfilled.
that was he was a frequent morning visitor.
More horses arriving, as we mentioned, and the man that's going to break us down the gallops, jogs, workouts, and both here at Churchill Downs and from elsewhere during the course of the rest of the workout show is Brandon Staubel, high atop Churchill Downs. Brandon, a little bit sticky out here this morning, but another nice day for some training and hopefully some new faces out on the racetrack.
Ed and Joe, good morning, and pleasure to be here once again. Yeah, you're right, a very humid morning in here. We've already seen several horses on track this morning work up a nice lather around the neck, so there'll be something to kind of take in to these contenders that come out, and some of the fresh faces too. Might be okay for them to get a little warm, a little worked up this morning. It's very humid once again up here, but excited to see some fresh faces and kind of get to know some of these horses, especially coming in from the West Coast.
Let's take a look at the Kentucky Derby leaderboard. Brandon, I'm mentioning some horses already out. Major Fed, Enforceable, Max Player, Winning Impression, already getting in their morning exercise earlier here on a Wednesday. Tis the Law, the leading contender. We have Dr. Post, the naming of Tyler Gaffleone for Top Pleasure yesterday. King Guillermo, expect to see him out on the racetrack today. And Art Collector, we were with Tommy Drury last night. He promised us that Art Collector was going to be on the grounds today. We'll wait and see about that.
Yeah, probably on the grounds later, so hopefully first look tomorrow with you and Scott Shapiro and Brandon, maybe Chantel. So exciting times with our collector arriving, likely second choice to me. But as we see down the list, Joe, surprise. I'm not sure we've ever been more than a week out and had 0 points on the top 20.
Yeah, that's Cheryl Spite. Rushy is one of the horses that arrived here yesterday along with his stablemate Speech. Rushy number 12 on the list for trainer Michael McCarthy. First horse we're going to take a look at and break down here this morning is 1,000 Words. And this horse will become the 22nd horse to cost at least $1 million to start in the Kentucky Derby. The all-time record, Fusaichi Pegasus, who cost $4 million in the year 2000. None of the other 21 horses behind Fusaichi Pegasus has won, interestingly enough, but this is a horse that ran the best race of his career last time out.
7 figures is a stout price for a Pioneer of the Nile out of a Pomeroy mare, and is a graded stakes winner, so lived up to those expectations somewhat, has gotten to the Derby. This is one, though, I think he'll be on the outside looking in when it's picture time after the race.
Most recent work was on August 24th in Southern California at Del Mar, and we're going to take a look at that right now, and Brandon Staubel will break it down. Brandon?
Yeah, guys, you mentioned the cost of the horses in here. How about this drill? So we've got 1,000 Words working with Cezanne, who is probably going to end up running the Pate Mile. Cezanne, a $3.65 million purchase, so a total of $4.6 million in this drill, $4.65 million in this drill with these two horses. But 1,000 Words on the outside. Last time, a week before, he worked him on the inside, and Bob Baffert obviously knows how to get a horse here, so he's mixing it up a little bit. He's going to put 1,000 Words on the outside here, let him sit a little bit, and they're going to come up to the quarter pole. He'll end up being just kind of asked a little bit here to finish up, and then really the best part of this work, I thought, was the gallop out. I just thought that stamina is not going to be too much of an issue here. It's just going to be whether he's good enough or not. He gets him switched over there, and it's not a huge acceleration that we see down the lane, but it's enough. And then I really like the way this horse reaches out. Obviously, for $1 million, that's what you want in a horse, but the fact he's still got a nice hold at the wire, and then he'll kind of just ask him to gallop out a little bit here, and he'll end up typical Bob Baffert, a nice double gallop out.
There you see 1,000 Words with that work on August the 23rd. We'll have his final work this coming weekend for 5-time Kentucky Derby winning trainer Bob Baffert. Another horse from California, Honor AP, probably the horse that's going to take the most betting action for John Sheriffs. Has 4 siblings that have earned over $140,000 in their careers. Nothing spectacular, mostly mile types. The dam was a multiple graded stakes winning route millionaire, though, so well-bred on that side of the Pedigree Honor Code, making a nice impression as an early stallion. And I didn't know you're a little bit against this one.
Yeah, this is the University of Michigan horse for me in this field. I have him really high in the polls earlier in the year, number 2. I just didn't like what I saw in the shared belief and have him now in my bottom half of the top 10. He was 1-5 in that race, Joe, and had dead aim on 1,000 Words, never got by him, and kind of just fell into place for second. I can't take him at 6 or 8 to 1 off that race.
A lot of people thought that maybe John Sheriff's using the shared belief as a springboard to the Derby. So very important to see some good things from him coming out of that race and into the recent works, including this most recent move on August the 22nd at Del Mar. Honor AP for John Sheriffs and Mike Smith. They teamed up in 2005 to win the Derby with a long shot, Giacomo. What do you see here, Brandon?
Yeah, Joe, and I'm in that camp as well. I think the last was a pure prep, knowing the way that he trains. I think that was just a prep. But in here, Mike Smith aboard, and listening to Mike talk after some of these works, they definitely have a plan. They definitely know that this horse probably going to be somewhere mid-pack in here, so they're going to kind of put a little bit of speed into him, but the big emphasis here is going to be on the gallop out. This horse has a humongous stride, and once we hit the turn here in just a second, you'll see he's got those big front stockings, he's got the big face in there, and really Mike just wants a little bit of speed early on, but he really is going to emphasize the finish in here. And over at Del Mar, as he hits the quarter pole here in just a second, he's got that big face similar to Tis the Law, and Mike's going to just kind of get after him a little bit. And like I said, the biggest thing in here is he wants a nice big gallop out. I know they had discussed next week they're going to come back with a more of a sharper move, maybe just something to kind of sharpen the speed up in here, but building the stamina and then also trying to get some finish in here, because we know that he's got a nice kick. You can see him reaching out very well down the lane, and then right at the wire, Mike's going to get after him a little bit. He wants him to finish up, and you're going to see that. He's going to have a nice big gallop out all the way back to the backside, and he looks good to me.
All right, the next horse we're going to take a look at is Rushy, who did arrive on the grounds here yesterday. There has been some talk that maybe he'll opt for the Pate Mile, but he's still on the list of possible horses for the Kentucky Derbies. Ed, as we take a look at Rushy arriving yesterday for Michael McCarthy along with Speech.
Michael McCarthy has a really good record shipping horses in, Joe, so he seems to pinpoint the condition book anywhere he goes, and why not? He came up under Todd Pletcher, who certainly has some skills in that regard as well. I will never blame someone who's able to run in the Derby for taking a shot. Based on what we've seen from this one against some of the contenders who are identified as the top contenders, he would definitely need to take a big step up to have a say on September 5th, but he does put himself into the race. I do like that.
He's already overachieved as a $70,000 OBS 2-year-old in training purchase. First foal out of the dam, a half to Alcibiades winner. Peace and War, a $429,000 earning router. Another generation back to the multiple stakes winning New York bred router, Miss Valentine. Let's take a look at Rushy and his most recent workout from Southern California, and not a tough one to spot. He and Enforceable kind of look a little bit alike, Brandon.
Yeah, they do. The grays in there and got the blinkers as well. I'll tell you what. I didn't really care for this drill, and you'll see why here in just a little bit in here. He works fast. He's a nice horse in here, but going into the Kentucky Derby, I just like to see a little more focus than what I see down the lane. And you can see approaching the turn in here, he's going to take a long time to get over onto his right lead, and just looked a little unfocused in here. So approaching the quarter pole here, that big red pole over at Del Mar, a little bit further back on the turn than it is here at Churchill. But here he hits the turn, working solo. Obviously the time was quick, but that's one of the reasons we watched his training, because the time was quick, but how are they doing it? And you can see there he's just kind of hanging on that left lead. To me, that's a little bit unfocused, especially for a horse that's been out several times. This is a lot to ask of him, in my opinion. You know, he's done a lot so far. He does switch leads late in there, but he's under a lot of encouragement late to finish, and there wasn't too much to offer on the gallop out in there. So for me, that was more of a downgrade. I'll see how he does when we come out on track in the next few days, but wasn't a huge fan of this work.
Yeah, I completely agree. You don't want to see the horse finishing on the left lead to begin with, and then not a lot of kick down the lane either. It'll be interesting to see what decision Michael McCarthy makes. Authentic, the likely pace setter for the Kentucky Derby for Bob Baffert, a 5-time winner of this race, and the winner of the Haskell last time out, a race that Bob Baffert has owned, winning it 9 times.
If someone were to have told me there's going to be a Bob Baffert trained horse coming in off a grade 1 win who's 4 for 5 lifetime, and he's going to be the 4th choice in the Kentucky Derby,
yeah, double-digit odds,
I wouldn't have believed him. But that's the spot this horse is in. Definitely didn't like the way he got the doors blown off him by Honor AP in the Santa Anita Derby. Certainly like that he came back and won, but even though it's 3,000 miles for home, Monmouth is Bob Baffert's playground when he decides to ship in. This is just a horse who's in that next tier of contenders after Tis the Law that I'm going to try to beat.
Yeah, 4th foal out of the dam. Not much in the immediate family. The dam was 1 for 2, had a promising career cut short. Grand Dam only 3 foals. Quality and longevity, another generation back, but mostly sprint, mile, and nothing all that special. But, horses are athletes, Brandon, and a lot of times, pedigree is one thing, but it's what they do on the racetrack that's the most important. This is Authentic's most recent workout from just a couple days ago.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. And it just, you see the pedigree on paper, it screams 2 turns, or maybe it screams 1 turn, but it's all about the individual and finding out what they're capable of. There was some talk in the last race. We all saw that maybe he got a little tired late, maybe he was looking around, whatever the case may be. Bob Baffert goes to a mile workout in here, and to me that signals he wants to make sure this horse does not get tired. He wants to make sure that fitness isn't going to be an issue, and he should be plenty fit off of this drill. I mean, there wasn't anything that really jumped out on the page at me. He's a nice horse. He's a very athletic horse in here. I have mentioned before maybe my biggest knock, and it's maybe not even that big of a knock, but he does carry his head pretty high. Doesn't really kind of level out, similar to some of maybe the other runners in this race, but he changes leads nicely here. He's going to stretch out down the lane. He's not really under a lot of encouragement. He's going to get a lot out of this drill, and really nice horse. It's just whether or not he's built to go 10 furlongs. Baffert, we know that he's a great trainer. Talked about the 1,000 words work a little bit ago, how he switched up and put the horse on the outside versus inside last time. This is what he did with Authentic here. Last time he had him 2 back of a mate. Today he sends him solo, and he wants to get stamina. That's why he's one of the top trainers out there, is because he's making these calls, making the changes. You can see the rider kind of tapping on with the right hand in here, and he really wants the big gallop out, and that's what he got.
Now at Authentic went gate to wire in the Haskell. 1,000 words went gate to wire in the Shared Belief. We know that Authentic is faster. A lot's going to depend on post position, but Bob trying to teach Authentic some lessons depending on circumstances with a 20-horse field or at least close to it. Will be interesting to see what kind of tactics these two horses employ.
I would have to think if Bob thinks Authentic is his better chance at the two, that he's going to want him to go gate to wire and would be on the lead over 1,000 words.
All right, we've got some people joining us from all over the world. I know we're big in Venezuela with the two big horses, Caracaro and King Guillermo. Lou from Vancouver, Tyler from St. Paul, Minnesota, Angela from Cedar Bluff, Alabama, and Johanna all the way from Nova Scotia. If any of you have a question out there on social media, just send it to us. We're going to get to as many as we can during the course of the show. No question is a bad question via Kentucky Derby on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc. If you got a question, ask us. That's what we're here for.
I saw someone ask, how do I bet a horse in the Kentucky Derby? And Maggie or Alicia, whoever's doing the Facebook, was on the spot. TwinSpires.com.
There you go, TwinSpires.com for all your wagering needs. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, lots more, including that private training period from 7:30 a.m. to 7:45, where Oaks and Derby contenders will be out on the racetrack. We'll be back with a lot more right after this.
Michael or Keith? Anyone hear me? Can you turn off the Lucas Gap mic if they're not on back there? I heard a lot of conversation.
Notes to discover. Every sip of Woodford Reserve bourbon is a spectacle for the senses.
We are back on the Kentucky Derby Morning Workout Show presented by TwinSpires.com and the TwinSpires app. Fast main track. Right now, clear conditions, temperature in the low 70s, and again, about 15 minutes from now, really about 13 minutes from now, the horses will come out onto the racetrack, the designated training period, Ed, for the Oaks and Derby horses, and we'll have to see who comes out. I mean, we're hoping maybe Speech, Rushy, potentially. Swiss Skydiver got in late last night. We'll see if she has a walk day today or if she stretches her legs. We'll just have to wait and see.
And we know we'll get King Guillermo at least. Oh, and there's the call for King Guillermo. But, yeah, hopefully Swiss Skydiver. And unfortunately, we're not in a point where there's a lot of people here because that's one of those moments, Derby week, the week before, I really love when people get that first look of one of the superstars here. But at least we'll get to experience it.
Now, King Guillermo had a monster workout on Saturday. He had a walk day on Sunday. He had a jog day on Monday, and then he galloped yesterday. And the sire, Uncle Mo, the dam, slow hand, and obviously this horse hasn't run since finishing second in the Arkansas Derby, one of the divisions of that race. That, you know, it's well documented that you're against.
I am against, not because of anything we've seen on the track. The workout got rave reviews. His Tampa Bay and Arkansas Derbies were fine, but the long layoff really scares me coming into a mile quarter race against the best 3-year-olds.
We're going to send it over to Brandon. We talked about that workout this past Saturday. We're going to take a ride with Miguel Mena, Brandon.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting to be able to put a GoPro camera on Miguel and be able to kind of go along on a ride with King Guillermo, and the fact that this horse blazed the track up so good, it just kind of worked hand in hand. So we put a nice little package together here just to kind of give everybody an idea of how this went and what it feels like. So you've got Miguel Mena up here. You can see he's got a long, stout hold on King Guillermo early on. He's pulling, and then switching to the cam in here, you can see, first off, how fit jockeys are by Miguel's arms in here, but you can see that he's got that nice long hold on him. The ears are kind of flopping, and that's one thing we wanted to do with this camera too, is kind of give everybody an idea of we talk about the ears all the time, what it actually looks like. So you can see Miguel approaching the turn here, and still got that nice hold in there. King Guillermo's pulling, and you can see he's got the head down, which we like to see, and Miguel's going to kind of let him out a little bit here, and then they're going to be approaching the quarter pole pretty soon. And one thing about Miguel that I mentioned when we watched this work, he does like to work close to the rail. You can see the rail to the left there and see how close he is to it. So around the turn, he's scraping the paint, as we say, and he's just asking a little bit here down the lane, a little bit of nudging. He wants him to pick it up. And once you get to the finish in here, one of the best parts of this drill was the gallop out. And you can see Miguel's going to stand up here just shortly, and we'll switch to that cam and really see and watch the ears. You can see that right ear kind of flicking right at the wire, and Miguel stands up, and then when we switch to the cam, you can see that right ear. Left ear is pricked, telling him that he still is going. He's watching what's going on, but his right ear is kind of flipping 180 degrees back around. You can see there, and he's waiting on his cue in here. Miguel's kind of just nudging on him. He wants him to finish up in here, and really understanding the horse. Jockeys do such a great job of it, and from what I do and what we do for watching training, and anybody out there learning to watch workouts in here, just gives you an idea of what that jockey can see. You can still see on the backside that right ear kind of flicking back around. Left ear's cocked. He's got plenty left in the tank. Really nice drill, really great view. Good job, guys.
And great job by you, Brandon, explaining that. It's a nice piece there. Certainly gives you a great perspective of what the jockeys do, what the horses do. And Miguel Mena will be aboard Necker Island in the Kentucky Derby, but obviously helping out the connections there with that workout aboard.
And getting some
Guillermo.
intel.
And for sure, and Sammy Camacho will be aboard King Guillermo. Here's the intel on Necker Island, who was claimed for $100,000, third in a couple of stake races since the Indiana Derby and also the Ellis Park Derby. And, he's up against it in the Kentucky Derby, but Chris Hartman is here on the grounds. And they claimed him for $100,000. He's kind of sort of already overachieved.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, you hear claimed for, and you think, oh, this was a claiming race. But you've mentioned a few horses, Joe, that have cost less than $100,000. So all timing, all a matter of when you're willing to pay the money. Certainly worth more than that now. And I actually missed when I was there live, and we watched the Ellis Park Derby back yesterday with Tommy Drury, as you mentioned. And this horse did have a little bit of fight late. It looked like he was getting ridden pretty hard, turning for home, went fourth. Finally, when they straighten, put it together. So with the long stretch here, maybe that's his benefit.
A little bit of training from Necker Island, who's, I believe, supposed to work this weekend as you see him out on the racetrack. If we have Brandon, what have you seen from this horse?
Yeah, they haven't really done a whole lot, but that could be by design in here. They just want to bring him up to the work fresh. And depending on, once again, we're just talking about the trainers in here and knowing the horse and knowing how much did the race take out of him and how much work do I need to put in between. But they've just, I'll tell you what, the one best thing that I've seen so far about this horse is his attitude. He's just an easygoing horse, comes out here, does his job. He doesn't seem to get hot. He doesn't seem to get frustrated with anything out here. He just kind of likes to be out there, and they've taken it pretty slow on him, so it'll be interesting to see going forward. I know we talked about maybe a work on Saturday. It'll be interesting to see going forward how this horse kind of perks up a little bit, or does he kind of just keep this even manner?
Yeah, all horses have very unique personalities as we near the 7:30 half-hour time. About 8 minutes from now when the horses will come out. A little bit of a break in between, as you can see some track maintenance. And we heard from Brandon about Necker Island. Nobody knows him better than Hillary Hartman, who's aboard in the mornings. Hillary?
He's real smooth, real quiet. It's what we call a real flat-footed horse. He just loves to go up and watch the other horses train up and down the lane. Takes his time. He doesn't get in a rush about anything. Everything's real slow, easy, just super kind horse. Anything kind of do horse. We could get on him right now and go cross a mountain if you want to do. He would do it. He'll work this weekend under Miguel Mena. It'll be Miguel's first time on him, and I'm sure they'll be great. He's pretty easy.
If there was a pick 5 wager on the other side of a mountain, I think Ed would climb over it.
With a
carryover.
Especially if I got to be on Necker Island. I'd go over that mountain for a pick 5 carryover.
I don't think the Hartmans would allow
No,
it.
probably not.
Let's take a look at the Oaks Points leaders. We talked about this field changing literally late afternoon, early evening. Kevin Kirstein with his daily update, and 4 horses defected. Bayerness is added to this list. The reason, Ed, is this race is very top-heavy with Gamine, Swiss Skydiver, and Speech. You don't want to waste races if you don't think you can beat one of those, or at least, and She Dares the Devil and Bonnie South are super legitimate as well. So some of the others that may not be mile and eighth horses, Venetian Harbor comes to mind. They're looking at a race like the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. But yeah, some defections, and we're down to 9, but the best horses in the race remain.
And you said you don't want to waste a race, and that's, I'm sure, what's on Brad's mind when he talks about Bonnie South for a race like the Spinster at Keeneland, and that same weekend is the Black-Eyed Susan on Preakness Day. So there are a lot of options for 3-year-old fillies. Understandable if you don't want to waste a bullet chasing Gamine or Swiss Skydiver.
Speaking of Swiss Skydiver, let's take a look at her unbelievable credentials at 4 graded stakes wins, including the Alabama. I saw her at Fairgrounds this past winter. She ran okay in New Orleans, but man, when she went back to Florida, she became a completely different horse in the Gulfstream Park Oaks, and the ball has continued to roll from there.
And just another testament to the great 2-year-old program Ben Huffman puts together in November. This horse did not race on Stars of Tomorrow Day card when she broke her maiden career debut, but she looked awesome then. I'm not sure what Kenny had to tinker with over the winter, but when she showed up at Gulfstream, she's just been a totally different filly.
A lot of people were giving Kenny McPeak a hard time about running her in the bluegrass and taking away an opportunity to get a grade 1 in the Ashland, right? But Kenny knew what he was doing, ran second in the bluegrass, and then just went to the Alabama at Saratoga in a grade 1, got her grade 1, and left plenty in the tank for the first Friday in September.
Sure seemed that way. She had this race under complete control, really never a moment of doubt for Kenny. He has to be thrilled with the way she's coming into this race.
Now, it was interesting because Brian Hernandez had been aboard Swiss Skydiver, but he's also aboard the horse for Tommy Drury that's going to be running in the Derby, an Art Collector. So a tough decision for Kenny McPeak rider-wise between Brian Hernandez and Tyler Gaffalione. There's a lot that goes into it. Let's find out about that decision from Kenny.
Yeah, he got her ready as a 2-year-old, and he rode her in her first couple of starts, and then through one event and another, either he was zigging or we were zagging, and he didn't get to ride her back for a bit. But the job he did in Saratoga, I think, justifies him riding her back. It was a tough call because Brian Hernandez is my regular rider, but he has a commitment with Art Collector, and we were kind of thinking that if she runs well in the Oaks, we'd take her to the Preakness. But both of them good riders, but Tyler will ride. She's got to work probably next Friday or Saturday, and that sets her up for the race. Just a maintenance breeze here at Churchill. We'll probably do it the maintenance break, and other than that, it's pretty uncomplicated. We'll get her to the Oaks, hopefully, and all goes good.
I'm sure that Brian Hernandez Jr. a little bit disappointed because he looked stacked for the Derby and the Oaks. Tyler Gaffalione taking over Swiss Skydiver, rotor in the Alabama. But again, jockey musical chairs, they happen all the time, and around the big races, these things tend to happen. I'm sure there's no hard feelings, though, because I'm sure Brian understands the reasoning behind it with the Preakness coming up next.
Yeah, and Kenny mentioned, he rides him all the time. There's a relationship there, but just another testament to this being a weird year. All these races are now stacked together leading up to the Breeders' Cup, and jockeys and trainers are going to have to make some tough decisions.
The Kentucky Oaks and Kentucky Derby horses that are on the grounds are chomping at the bit to get out there for their morning exercise, 7:30 to 7:45. We're going to cover it live on the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show. Swiss Skydiver will be the headliner. She's going to be one of the favorites in the Kentucky Oaks. We'll be right back.
With over 200 flavor notes to discover, every sip of Woodford Reserve Bourbon is a spectacle for the senses.
Horses will be coming out onto the racetrack for the designated time when only Oaks and Derby horses are allowed to train, 7:30. That is Necker Island with Hillary Hartman. Will be going out onto the racetrack momentarily, and I
like the blue coordination there.
Blue coordination there, not hiding behind a pole. We appreciate that. It's the yellow saddle towels for the Derby horses. It's the pink saddle towels for the Oaks horses, just for anyone new that might be joining us.
Yes, easily identifiable with the saddle towels. Of course, one of the tricks of the trade for Brandon, which he doesn't get to talk a lot about, is they're used to having to identify horses by their markings, maybe different style trainer, saddle pads, etc. So a bit of a break for Brandon that he gets these saddle towels. Otherwise, we'd be relying on another piece of expertise he has identifying horses.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier. There were several horses that came out already this morning. Travis Foley texted me, what is this 7:30 Derby training stuff? Major Fed goes out at 5:15 in the morning, and that's part of their routine. So the last thing the trainers want to do is break that routine. One horse that's been coming out routinely at the 7:30 hour is King Guillermo. Big work Saturday. Was a little stiff when he came out on the racetrack, I thought, on Monday after the walk day, and working his way out of it. Do we have Brandon on mic? Brandon, tell us a little bit about King Guillermo coming out of that work and what you're hoping to see today from him.
Yeah, and what we've seen from him in the mornings, and even before this show started, being out here in the mornings, he's been here for several weeks now, and he's not the most fluid galloper. I think we've seen that on the screen, but honestly, it doesn't matter. It's all about the individual and how they do it and how they stride out, the length of stride, and just that they're enjoying what they're doing out there and getting the most out of it. And he seems to really want to do more than than really probably he should. So that's a good sign. We like to see that. We remember several derbies ago, a horse like Alani who would spend all that time out here. I mean, no problem with coming out and getting your training in as long as that is the program that this horse needs.
King Guillermo out on the racetrack now, going to stretch his legs.
And they're going for the yellow coordination.
Big work on Saturday. There he is, King Guillermo. Yeah, I mean, hey, if you can mix a little style into your morning
I feel
exercise.
with no fans and no hat and dress talk that we need to rely on the horses to bring the fashion to us this year.
There you go. And we appreciate all the trainers that do send their horses out at 7:30, giving us content and allowing fans from all over the country and all over the world to see these horses do their thing live at the Kentucky Derby morning work show, as you get a good look there at King Guillermo. And again, he's been here. He's had a few works over the track now. This is a horse that's going to have a work this coming weekend in final preparation for the Kentucky Derby. And we're going to have speech, I've been being told. She will be coming out onto the track as well. And there she is, designation of the pink saddle towel for the Oaks horses, Ed.
And she's definitely maybe of all the potential upsetters in the Derby and Oaks, when you look at Tiz the Law and then Gamine with Skydiver, I would say she, to me, is the most likely winner to upset any of those three. She almost beat Gamine anyway, and actually did, if you consider the disqualification. And again, Michael McCarthy is an assassin shipping these horses. It's incredible what he's done going to Oaklawn, and I think he can do it here with Churchill. He learned from one of the best, Todd Pletcher, who learned from the best, Dwayne Lucas.
There's speech. And again, she just arrived yesterday afternoon. And let's switch over to Swiss Skydiver. I'm going to send it over to Brandon. I think you've had plenty of opportunities to see this horse train over the course of the last several months, leading back to Churchill last year when she was a 2-year-old. Brandon, what have you seen from her maturity-wise? And, man, she has gotten so good.
Yeah, no, obviously carrying a lot of flesh in there. You can see the hind end very muscled out, and you would expect that after a couple of tough races in her last two. Really not too tough last time because she demolished that field. But the biggest thing that we like to see, obviously the natural physical progression, but the mental progression, especially going 2 turns when you've got speed, the ability to kind of turn it off and turn it on, which she really showed last time. That's the biggest thing. And just wanted to mention too, when you're watching these morning activities, I even like to watch the horses just jog out and try to get to know them a little bit. You saw King Guillermo kind of had that little strut to him. Swiss Skydiver has a nice little trot to her. And even Speech, you could see kind of swishing the tail a little bit. You know, she's feeling a little frisky first time on the track. So when we talk about getting to know the horses, that's kind of what we're trying to do out here. You can see Swiss Skydiver on the screen, still making a very nice appearance. You can see the ears kind of flicking back and forth, pricked, but she's taking everything in real nicely. She's not getting irritated with anything. She seems to be moving pretty well. We talked about the hind end, very built up, so very nice first impression in here, and you can still see those ears kind of twitching back and forth. She's kind of remembering, okay, I've been here before, and I'm going to listen to my rider. I'm going to come out and hopefully have a nice experience back on the track.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon, she got here at 8:30 last night, so, question whether or not she'd even go to the racetrack today. But if you can go to the racetrack, you should go to the racetrack. And that's what she's doing, again, reacquainting herself with Churchill Downs, and probably won't see her do very, very much today.
No, I wouldn't think so. We'll see what happens when she gets over here. Maybe just a jog around once, jog a mile, could be a light gallop. But first day on the track, it'll just be up to Kenny. And that's, once again, it goes back to the trainers knowing their horses. What do I need to do today to make sure that my filly gets to the next day in the best order?
There's Swiss Skydiver, and had a lot of debates. Gamine versus Swiss Skydiver. Gamine will be the favorite. Gamine coming off the 7 furlong test, 1 turn mile the race before. This filly just won at 1.25 miles, and she did it with plenty left in the tank, and she's got natural enough speed to stick on Gamine's hip, off that turn for home and potentially wear her down. That's how I envision it anyways.
I'd love to look back at the 145-year history. I wonder if any horse has come into the Oaks on a cutback.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, probably never.
It used to be 1 16 mile, so I guess it's possible there were some 9 furlong races ahead of the Oaks, but it's pretty incredible. Another, only in 2020 type of situation. But at 2-3 times the price of Gamine, I think Swiss Skydiver is my play.
We're going to switch back over to Speech, who probably will be in a stalking position behind Gamine, who she almost caught when they locked horns in an allowance race at Oaklawn, and Swiss Skydiver, who's got a little bit better natural speed than Speech, but Speech really came through nicely in the Ashland in her last race, and she got here yesterday afternoon along with stablemate Rushy for trainer Michael McCarthy. And Brandon, haven't had an opportunity to ask you about Speech yet. Again, she got here yesterday afternoon on the racetrack here for the first time, and as far as I know, she has never been to Churchill, so there's a little bit of an acclimation process for her.
Yeah, first local look at Speech in here, and you can see kind of maybe just swishing that tail a couple of times. So probably a frisky filly. Usually the better fillies are a little frisky, and you can see just kind of getting acquainted with the surface in here. I'm sure the plan is not to come with a 2-minute lick or anything first time back on the track. We just want to stretch the legs a little bit. And once again, when we're watching this activity, we don't want to start knocking horses right away. We want to get to know them a little bit and then see how they're coming up to their bigger gallops, to their workouts. And she seems to be doing okay out here today. Nothing to knock. You can see the ears pricked up. That's kind of just how we know. Those ears are how we know that how the horse is feeling out there, how they're taking everything in. You can see that they're pricked. You can see that the right ear's kind of flicking back a little bit. So seems like a classy filly. I will say physically, when she came down in front of me, maybe not as long as some of the other ones, like a Swiss Skydiver. So she not that she's compact, but she's just not as lengthy as some of the other ones. She dares the devil. So whether or not that would come into play in the longer races, we'll see. But makes a nice appearance in here. She looked nice and fit, and happy with what I see.
We'll switch from Speech back over to Swiss Skydiver. $35,000 Keeneland September yearling purchase. A bargain, to say the least. She's banked almost $1 million in her career. Kenny McPeak, good at picking horses out like this. Fourth full, have to miss Hot Legs, a talented turf sprinter. Dam was 2 for 5, very average family, but sneaky route pedigree on the Dam side by Daredevil. Swiss Skydiver is. Daredevil also represented by She Dares the Devil for Brad Cox.
Yeah, good first crop, certainly with the fillies for Daredevil. And Ken McPeak, obviously a notable trainer through the years, going back to Tejano Run, runner-up in the Derby, Harlan's Holiday. But really one of his hallmarks as well is picking out horses for good prices, including 2-time Horse of the Year Curlin, I think, for less than $100,000. And I wanted to ask Brandon, people may have noticed some horses have wraps on the front, some just on the back. Brandon, anything that you read into that? Do you note that work to work? Is it more important race day? What can you tell us about horses with the front wraps versus not at all?
Sure, mostly for protection in the mornings. Most, I won't say most, but it just depends on the barn, the trainer, putting the front wraps on. Some won't use them at all. Some will use them on all four all the time. Some do work in them. Brad Cox will work most of his horses in all four with front wraps. Other times they won't. If it's something unusual, and that's kind of the theme here, if it's something unusual that we're not used to seeing, then I kind of take notice. So if I know that a trainer will work horses without any wraps at all, and then they come out for a work in the wraps, then that makes me kind of, I'll jot it down and maybe just kind of think twice about it. But it's usually just looking for something out of the norm. This is norm for McPeak. You can see Swiss Skydiver on the screen. Made a nice local appearance. She's actually doing a little more than I thought she would today, so probably feeling fresh, and she looks really good out here.
Swiss Skydiver trained by Michael McCarthy, by Kenny McPeak. We were looking at speech trained by Michael McCarthy earlier. Kenny McPeak, as Ed mentioned, has trained a lot of good horses over the years. 7 millionaires, Swiss Skydiver on the brink of becoming the 8th. Second in the 2002 Kentucky Oaks with Take Charge Lady as the favorite, and also second in the 2017 Kentucky Oaks with Daddy's Little Darling. So Eddie's been knocking on the door.
Yeah, and he's had some success. I believe Daddy's Little Darling as well went on to some graded stakes on the turf. So very versatile trainer. Take Charge Lady was runner-up to Farda Amiga that year, ended up being champion 3-year-old filly. So he's had some good ones, and again, good ones picking him out at the sale as well.
Guys, not to interrupt, I apologize, but we did have King Guillermo. I saw the light on at the gate and thought it was maybe just somebody by accident put it on, but actually King Guillermo did a little pop out of the gate in there. So something interesting. I don't know if we caught the video or not, because once we get more horses out here, it's kind of hard because unless we have about 20 different cameras, one for each horse, but you can see him in here. They're definitely kind of what I would say maybe squeezing the limit a little bit on him. So kind of interesting to note. We had a gate pop out of the gate. He came around, and I would almost call this maybe like a 2-minute lick in here out of the gate.
Very unconventional, Brandon, from the word go. I mean, after this horse won the Tampa Bay Derby, they actually turned him out in a paddock, and he was running around like a wild horse. Now you see him coming off of a 4-month layoff into the Derby. He just worked 58 on Saturday, and now he's 2-minute licking out of the gate. I mean, unconventional, but obviously the trainer knows what he's doing. He was a legend in Venezuela before coming over here. Unconventional sometimes gets the job done.
Yeah, and you can see him pulling up in here, and they usually like to pull up on the side in here in the first turn, but the fact that he can push on this horse, it seems like, and the horse responds, that's what you like to see in here. If you're going to come into a big race and you're going to be trained hard, you got to be trained hard off the layoff to come into some of these races like the Arkansas Derby and especially the Kentucky Derby. But the fact that this horse is handling what's going on in here and he's able to take this, I mean, it's very impressive.
Yeah, Juan Avila, 9 training titles, 7 straight, while compiling about 3,000 wins in his native Venezuela. So the guy knows how to win a big horse race. Let's switch gears over to Necker Island, who has continued to train for us at the 7:30 hour, and Brandon opening up a little bit here and getting a little bit more exercise on the racetrack this morning and just kind of doing his thing.
Yeah, and this is prototypical of every barn out here. The closer that you get to a workout, the more you're going to do. We saw him the first couple days on track just kind of jog, and we're slowly building up to the work. And here you can see he's doing a little more today. And we had Hillary Hartman on earlier. She talked about his demeanor and his temperament, just an easygoing horse. You can see that the ears are pricked up there, and they're just basically signaling to them. I mean, horses are creatures of habit, so they know when they start doing more in their gallops and more in their gallops that they're either coming up to a race or they're coming up to a work. So this guy probably knows he's going to be doing something pretty soon. They keep him out pretty wide in here. They don't want to sometimes if you get horses down on the rail, they might get a little aggressive on you, so you keep them out wide and just under a long hold in there. You can see the ears are up, and will be exciting to get Mena up on Saturday and let this horse stretch his legs a little more.
So many interesting components, and it was really interesting what Hillary said, Brandon, about this horse's attitude, demeanor. Obviously has a really good mind. I mean, talent is paramount, stamina is paramount, obviously going 1.25 miles in the Kentucky Derby. But when you have a horse with a good mind and you're trying to mold that piece of clay, it certainly is helpful.
Exactly, and it's just what we just talked about with King Guillermo. I mean, the ability to push on a horse and have the horse actually respond and not go the other way. I mean, sometimes you'll push on a horse and they go the other way and they start, you see it in their gallops, they start to slow in their gallops, they start to not stride out as efficiently. So that's, for me, one of the biggest interesting parts of watching this whole thing is watching the trainers kind of push the button and take their foot off the gas a little bit. And so the foot is on the gas here with Necker Island, and we'll see on the work on Saturday how he responds, and then we want to watch him coming out.
Now, is Necker Island a 1.25 mile horse against this caliber, Ed? That remains to be seen, obviously. But coming out of the Derby, and I know it's obviously usually in May, horses find their niche. You mentioned Promises Fulfilled earlier. He set the pace in the Kentucky Derby and then wound up eventually becoming one of the best sprinters in the country. Some horses will move over to turf. Others will prove that maybe they're better around a distance of a mile, one turn, et cetera, et cetera. But it starts in the Kentucky Derby, and then, trainers need to find out, obviously, what their horses do best. We'll see what Necker Island does best moving forward.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him get a mile and a quarter. As I said earlier, I was encouraged with the fight he showed at Ellis Park. I mean, he was beaten, but he didn't give up and ended up earning third for his connections, which points ended up probably not mattering, but at the time looked like that could have made the difference. So I'm encouraged by that. I would say is probably, 17th, 18th choice, maybe more. He wouldn't be impossible to me underneath. So, he's definitely, knowing I like the favorite anyway, someone I wouldn't mind seeing crash the gimmicks.
So some stuff that's coming up here at Churchill. The draw for the Oaks will be on Monday morning. The draw for the Derby will be on Tuesday morning, Ed. But we start racing on Tuesday, and the draw for that will be Friday. The marathon is the featured stick race on that day. And when it comes to draws and making some selections, we're looking very forward to getting those first set of Brisnet PPs in our hands.
Absolutely. I would say the draw probably not a huge deal in the Oaks. We're looking at 9 right now. But obviously the Kentucky Derby with that brand new gate, very excited to see that in play, and probably doesn't make the rail as bad, but there are certainly some horses I wouldn't want to be down inside if I were their trainers.
We'll be broadcasting the live draw for the Oaks and the Derby Monday for the Oaks, Tuesday for the Derby at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. So you'll want to tune in for that. We'll be giving you more information as we get closer. But again, opening day draw for Churchill. Some fantastic racing here, Ed, day in and day out. This past spring, looking forward to that being the case again here in September and November. That first draw will be Friday, and again, like a kid in a candy store awaiting Santa on Christmas Eve, we're going to get those PPs in our hands. And one of the things that Twin Spires does now is expert picks that can really help the fans, and I know you're a big part of it.
Yeah, love being a part of the expert picks. Use those Brisnet PPs to come up with them, and what a wagering product here. 15% takeout on the pick 5 and pick 6. And the expert pick is by race, and I always encourage people first leg of the pick 5 and pick 6, make sure they go through the videos, because sometimes I have a single or a long shot, but it's been a lot of fun to be a part of it. I know my colleagues have enjoyed it at other tracks as well.
Yeah, great feature on twinspires.com and the Twin Spires app. Of course, yeah, that goes without saying. I love the Twin Spires app. I use it regularly. And if you're not a twinspires.com participant, member, whatever you want to call it, man, this is the time to get involved at. You're going to run these promotions to try to get people to sign up for accounts. And if you do it leading into Kentucky Derby week, $200 new player bonus. And obviously it pays to watch the workout show.
Sure does. It pays to watch and it pays to use the code. Works 200. You sign up, use the code, and you got $200 to bet. And that's not, you can save it for the Derby if you'd like, but if you're like me, you won't be able to wait. You're crossing that mountain with Necker Island and get involved right off the rip with a free 200.
All right, so we've got a lot of people watching on social media. I think we've been breaking records. Once the law gets here and some of the other horses, it's just going to blow up next week. But if you're watching and you have a question or you have an opinion, feel free to interact with us on social media. We'll be glad to answer as many as we can over the course of the next 10 minutes or so. We have one coming in here from Chris on Facebook. I guess Chris heard us earlier talk about it. If Brandon's on the mic right now, I'd like him to answer this. The purpose of the right lead versus the left lead, if you can just kind of explain that to our audience, Brandon.
Sure. The analogy that people like to use is if you're carrying, let's say, a suitcase through the airport and you've got it in your left hand and you've walked 100 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet, well, that thing's going to get tired after a while. So when you switch over to your right hand, obviously it seems a lot easier, and it's the same way with these horses. They're going to gallop on what's called the left lead, usually around the turns. They'll switch over to the right on the backside. They'll go back to the left around the far turn, and then what we always look for, sometimes it's even a sign of health too, making sure that the horse gets switched over on their right lead. You hear handicappers talk about that all the time, but when that right lead, where they get switched over, when they're leading with the right instead of the left, it gives them just that kind of extra boost of power. And you really see it with the better class animals when you can see that acceleration when they switch over to that right lead. And some of the better ones, they do it like you don't even see it. It's so fast. So it's more about just energy conservation and then being able to call on that power when you need it.
Got another question coming in from Twitter. It's Ariel from Cleveland, and Ariel wants to know, why Swiss Skydiver's not running in the Kentucky Derby. Ran a really good second in the Grade 2 Bluegrass and proved she could get 1.25 miles in the Alabama. Why not take a shot in the Kentucky Derby with her?
Well, first of all, hello, Cleveland, my native land as well. So thanks for the question, Ariel. I think Kenny took his shot in the Bluegrass, and he's kept his word. He said he wants a win to show that this filly belongs against males in the Derby going 1.25 miles. I thought maybe the way she won the Alabama and the fact we might not be looking at a full field, he might have other ideas, but he's sticking to his guns. And I love that confidence going against Gamine because she's actually going to be a bigger favorite than Tiz the Law. So he's deciding to go in a race where the wagering public thinks Gamine has a more likely chance of winning than the Derby favorite. And I'm here for it. I think Swiss Skydiver is going to offer great value in the Oaks. I don't think she would in the Derby.
Designated training time now over. As you can see, a plethora of horses hitting the racetrack from all different barns. We have 1,600 horses on the grounds here at Churchill Downs on a regular basis, and horses coming in, obviously, for the stakes. And Ed, we absolutely love these shirts that we've got.
Yes.
You know, it's just absolutely fantastic that we've been able to be provided with them. They're very comfortable. They're dry fit. And the best news, honestly, as far as these shirts go, for us is they're free. But for everybody else, there's a 50% discount and another 10%. And again, it pays to watch the Kentucky Derby morning workout show. And all kinds of merchandise. And it's interesting this year because a lot of this merchandise has a May 2nd date on it.
Right.
So we're talking about collector's items down the road.
100%. And I do love the logo this year with the bugle. And I've actually thought quite a bit about what it's going to be like when Steve Buttleman comes out of that pagoda to a few hundred people instead of more than 100,000. Surreal moment among many, I'm sure. But what an offer, up to 50% off, 10% off with the promo code MorningWorks. That's 55% off total, Joe.
Yeah, good math. DerbyMuseumStore.com. Again, these shirts we are wearing, courtesy of B. Dratty. And again, couldn't be more comfortable. Nice, stretchy materials, and the dry fit polos are always the best.
And keeping us cool. It's smuggy out there.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, we do appreciate that. As we come back into the set area again, social distancing, very important, Ed. You and I are separated. We have the masks that we wear when we're not on the air, always on the backstretch when we are conducting interviews. There you go. Cleaning the equipment, sanitizing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we got to see a couple of top Kentucky Oaks contenders today. Your final thought for the morning.
Yeah, it was definitely exciting to see both Swiss Skydiver and Speech out there. And you mentioned the S's in the Derby. I wonder what it is for the Oaks, but it's it'd be an interesting prop.
Yeah.
The S's versus Gamine. She dares the devil too.
There you go.
Anyway, but it was great to see him on the track, and it just adds to sort of that crescendoing toward the Oaks and Derby, and really looking forward to seeing Swiss Skydiver work on Friday or Saturday, as Kenny said.
Well, we've got a good view on our monitor here, but Brandon's got a fantastic view from the fourth floor. Brandon, your final thought here for a Wednesday.
Yeah, it's hard to keep focused when the horses come out. There's hundreds at a time. But the final thought here was just glad to see that we got some fresh faces out there. Really interested that King Guillermo is being kind of squeezed on a little bit in here, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do next with him.
Yeah, I would have to make that my final thought as well. Great to see the Oaks fillies out there, but the King Guillermo popping the gate. Coming back after that huge work on Saturday to continue his unorthodox training compared to some of the others. I mean, obviously, the connections have had a lot of success. Victor Martinez, the former Major League Baseball player, with 250 home runs on his resume, and looking to knock one out of the park.
Yeah, I would think he'd count this as a grand slam, if not whatever could be better than that. The cycle of homers, or who knows. Wonder if Ariel will be cheering for King Guillermo with the Cleveland connection.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of baseball fans out there for sure. A lot of Detroit Tigers fans. Our executive producer, Keith Wetzler, I'm sure he's on King Guillermo. Are they going to have those Twin Spires buttons this year?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Can't wait.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up.
Who would you take first?
Well, I mean, obviously, Art Collector.
Yeah.
You want him to win. I wonder who Steve's texting. It's not me.
I hope he's not complaining about something we said.
No, not today. Max Player.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even have him on.
We had him on recording. That's going to wrap it up for
mask, though. I love that.
Right on, and I'm sure he's got plenty of business, just enjoying a beautiful morning here in Louisville as the road to the Kentucky Derby in Oaks continues. We will be back tomorrow, Thursday, at the normal time, 7 o'clock in the morning, as we look for more morning works from our Oaks and Derby contenders. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody.